Hi everyone, welcome back to Perception Paradox. My name is Zivile and I'm your host. And today is a very special episode for me. I'm sitting down with a good friend of mine, Vykintas Glodenis. Back in the days, well, when I mean back in the days, back in 2011, it's been quite a long time ago. Vykintas was my manager in one of the youth organizations. Now, later on, we became really, really good friends. And I always saw him as people's leader, great manager, public speaker. And then at some point, he decided that he wanted a change. And from complete non-technical manager, he went to building 500 plus AI automations that reached over 1 million users. And right now, he is the Chief AI Transformation Officer at Mindvalley and a two-time TEDx speaker. But here's the kicker. He did it all without writing a single line of code. And in the next hour, Vykintas will reveal why most people are using AI completely wrong. The simple daily habits that separate AI winners from losers and the exact blueprint he used to automate his way to success. Because here's the harsh truth. If you're not using AI daily, you are already falling behind. And while you are debating whether it's worth it, whether it's safe, others are literally building empires with it and saving bunch of time as well. So basically, if you've been waiting for the right time to start with AI, that time was yesterday. But I have some great news because today is your second chance. It was very interesting for me to sit down with Vykintas to learn his applicable skills because he's literally the master of applied AI. And yeah, so I hope you enjoy it. Let's dive in. Real people, real stories, and real challenges that break the status quo. I'm your host, Zivile, and welcome to Perception Paradox. Hello, Vykintas.
Hello, Zivile.
It's so good to meet you here in this different environment, different setting. It's been a while.
Yeah, so happy to see you.
Me too. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, today you're up for a treat. I'm sitting here with a good friend of mine, Vykintas. With Vykintas, we met back in 2011 when he was trying to sell to me some kind of vision of youth organization. And that we have to be part of a department at university and empower leadership through exchange programs. And I was very skeptical about that, but then Vykintas had a lot of charisma and then there were some cool people joining, so I had a FOMO, fear of missing out. And I did join and we had a good ride together building youth organizations. So yeah. It's great to have Vykintas now in different
I was getting people to work without getting paid. Experience.
You were so good about that. So we were part of an organization called Einikyte, and that was a catalyst, I guess, for our careers, for our personalities and friendships that we formed during that time. So Vykintas, we are sitting in your terrace, enjoying a beautiful sun in Vilnius. How have you been?
Been good. Been really good. I don't know. Has been a very interesting last few years, I would guess. First of all, it started for me from my transition to no-code development. And when I got this feeling that, damn, I can develop applications, automations very fast, in a few days I can release a new app, for some kind of a new product. But of course, it comes with a lot of new tools continuously, new changing, new features and so on. So it's very interesting and challenging. And then generative AI came into picture, right? So and then it became as a combination. And again, it's continuous, this fear of missing out, new tools, new features. So it has been challenging, but very interesting last, I would say, 5 years or so.
That's cool. So I think I liked it. Vykintas was always that structure mind who brings back into the topic. So briefly, what we're going to talk about today about applied AI tools and how did Vykintas actually transition himself from more business mindset. He's been covering different roles at Mindvalley, international company that originated in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and then started spreading with online education. And Vykintas became a master pro in artificial intelligence. And I do recall when we met with you, you were like, oh yeah, so I'm just building AI applications and I've learned how to apply AI properly. So maybe we can start from the beginnings Because as you mentioned, it can be confusing with AI, Gen AI, and how do you start using that? How did you actually start transitioning from your regular roles in business to being someone who is a non-technical developer?
So I used to be a manager, right? So starting from being a branch president and getting people to work without being paid, right? And then I went to military and at some point was selecting. It was a very interesting life choice that I had to make. I was selecting between working for Tata Consultancy Services in India, which is a very corporate, huge organization, very hierarchical and so on. Between Mindvalley, which is like a company that they measured at that point happiness in the office and so on, being led by a very charismatic leader, Vishen Lakiani. And the third option I had was I was invited to Special Operation Forces of Lithuania because I passed their test. It started from this and decided to go with Mindvalley because I understood that, okay, it will be, the environment will be the most fast-paced in terms of new challenges, new opportunities arising, and I was right. I started from customer support, the lowest kind of job in the beginning, but then at some point started leading customer support department, then customer success, then product development, so creating Mindvalley programs, at some point localization, and then I came across a point when I understood that, damn, like, I really like creating and building stuff. And in the end of the week, I would think like, what did I create? What did I build? And I just spent hours upon hours and hours in meetings, doing people management, one-on-ones, and so on. And then during the weekend, I would still work so that I could build some automation or some workflow. And I understood that, no, screw it. I want to just start building stuff. And I approached Vishen and said, Vishen, I want to just build applications with no code and automations for you. At first, he was very skeptical. He was like, oh, maybe half or part-time, But then when I built for him some applications in a few days that he had an idea of and he didn't have tech department resources, he was like, okay, let's go full in. Let's do it, And this is how I became a developer, first of all. So a developer using no code, visual programming, right? Like I learned particular stack of various no code tools and started building automations and applications, and both internal applications for the company as well as customer facing.
So what were your first applications you started developing?
My love affair started with Airtable. And actually, it's still going strong after so many years, because Airtable is a database, but it's a very friendly database for non-technical users and technical users alike. And it's based on this visual programming that with that database, you're building your custom internal applications, automations, your workflows for whatever you can imagine, like your libraries of various assets that you have, your project management, your task management, your ticket management, like you need to make some choices or selections you can also use to manage content marketing pipeline, anything. So that's what I fell in love when it comes to Airtable, because it has a steeper learning curve. You need to learn how to build with it, and not just in terms of features, but in terms of this computational thinking, how to think, logically and creatively. But at the same time, once you pass a particular line, sky's the limit. You can build any kind of custom application for your own needs. And since then, I built like thousands of semi or fully automated workflows and various internal tools and applications for Mindvalley and other companies.
That's pretty cool. And you've been working, both with Mindvalley, but also with a lot of external people and clients. What do people usually get wrong about AI and starting working with it? Because we speak a lot about that, are aware of few tools, but what I experience in even the startup environment is sometimes we are either afraid to execute or we don't have the know-how.
I see a lot of people being affected by fear of missing out and continuously trying to track various new tools and applications. I think that's a big mistake, because it often happens that you testing out new tools and tracking the market becomes like your full-time job, not actually delivering and getting value from that, right? So to my students, I'm always telling, select the cornerstone AI applications first, the general purpose AI applications. Really master, start using them every single day, and then build on top. When you have a project, when you have a particular very specific challenge, then you can find a challenge specific solution. So what I'm always telling, first of all, ChatGPT or some similar tool, right? Start using it every single day. Like literally, if you're not using it every single day, something is wrong, right? Build workflows, structured workflows with ChatGPT so that you wouldn't always just initiate a new conversation,
Yes.
but you would have assistants that would be plugged into your daily work. Maybe on a daily basis, you're creating some newsletter, email, right? So, okay, you have an assistant that's optimized for that task, and you get it to deliver results for you every day or every week, right? Once you have that, then you go beyond. I would suggest to learn or start using a tool like Airtable or something similar. Why? Because if you get a lot of software as a service tools, one thing, it costs quite a lot. Another thing, you need to learn about every single tool. Third thing, they don't talk with each other so well. Yes, you can integrate with tools like Zapier or Make, but it seems easier on paper when you see, oh, there is this integration or API or whatever, than in actuality, when you actually need to do it. Often you face various struggles. But if instead you have a cornerstone tool like Airtable, you start using that one tool for most of the operational requirements that you have, you master it, and all data is in one place. It's talking with each other. You connect all the workflows, they work beautifully in unison. So that's why I really suggest to have Airtable or something like this, a database that's easy to use for everyone. And then third level, I would say, is automating, fully automating, because I always, ChatGPT, you are enhancing workflows because it still requires your manual input to enter something, to then copy paste, save it somewhere. The next level is fully automating, when you have, your AI kind of employees working for you 24/7 by default, either on any given time or when it gets triggered, right? For that, I use either make.com or N8N. These are one of the industry leaders. They have a bit of a learning curve to learn, but once you learn, you can build nearly anything. You can connect, integrate, automate nearly anything you want.
So let's take an example. I'm creating a podcast, I'm developing the content. The processes are quite regular with every single episode. Before the release, you edit it, you have to develop the description, the title that works in the current landscape, scheduling, etc. So where do I begin? Let's say if we choose to use ChatGPT, do I need the premium? How do I make sure that I'm not, because the conversations also have a limitation or how much you can feed that one conversation. So how do I make sure that it's a continuous work and I'm training it based on my own needs? Because that's where I see that a lot of people who are entering this automation with AI tools in their workflows get stuck, because they get stuck like, okay, so what happens next? How do I move to the next stage, or how do I integrate it rather than just feeding from the beginning, I think.
Very good point. I see people struggling finding use cases for AI. They kind of know what it's good for, but when you are on your everyday whirlwind, right, you are like swimming in your tasks, naturally you're being pushed away, right? So I think what's very important is to have a structured approach of how you brainstorm and review various workflows that you could enhance with AI. So I'm always telling, have a list of workflows, and every time you do something, let's say you mentioned you're creating something for podcast, right? Try to notice, to catch yourself, I'm doing this thing, right? I'm creating, I don't know, a script or doing research about a guest, right? And I'm doing this continuously. Let me put into the list of potential workflows to enhance with AI, right? So first of all, you need to form this habit of getting potential workflows into a list, right? Second, you need to continuously review and evaluate, okay, what will be the next workflow I enhance with AI? And here I'm not talking about automating, because also my learning point was that very often it's not worth it automating.
Okay.
You need to have scale, and you need to have stability of the process, because very often you may try to automate fully. You invest a lot of time building some automation, because again, in reality, it's usually more difficult than it seems from the first sight. You make it really work, right? And then let's say process changes, and then you need to maintain, change it. So it takes more time than the actually value it creates. So start from enhancing what I mentioned, ChatGPT, right? And when you go through this list, have some kind of a simple way how to prioritize, which will be the next in line for me to implement AI for, right? And then you select, let's say, a process to, let's say, make a research about a guest on your podcast, right? So you start playing with ChatGPT and having a conversation, giving it feedback in the chat, right? First of all, you don't overthink about the prompt that you use. And once in the end of this conversation, while giving feedback, once you get to a result that you think like, oh, this, if I would always get a result like this, that would be amazing. Then you can tell AI, okay, now let's try to codify this. Let's try to convert it into a prompt, maybe custom instructions for a ChatGPT, custom GPT, right? And then you can create a custom GPT that it would be just one click of a button. You don't even need to enter a prompt. You just enter the name of a person and let's say website or whatever, and boom, AI understands right away what to do.
The rest. You
Yes.
don't need. Okay.
So my suggestion, don't overthink about the prompt and the process right away. Start playing, get to the result that you like, and then, okay, use AI also how to codify, how to convert the learnings of this conversation now into a workflow that would deliver consistent results on a consistent basis.
Very insightful. And that leads me to the next question. We see more and more companies that are providing with AI agents showing up, right? That you can literally integrate, plug in your, I don't know, sales AI agent, which I don't think that's working that well nowadays still. Communication, copywriter, what are your views on those AI agent solutions?
A lot of hype still. Like overall, there is a lot of content, both in terms of various influencers on YouTube when they are creating, let's say, automations with, as I mentioned, Einikyte or Make.com, as well as companies that are releasing various AI agents. There is a lot of hype and a bit of a lack of reliability and quality of results. Because my job is to test new tools, and very often when I test, and it looks amazing on the surface when you just start working and like searches the internet, finds information, creates a sheet and so on, but then you start checking information in that sheet, and if you understand that topic or that info, you start noticing various gaps and mistakes, right? So unfortunately, there is still quite a lot of hype. That's why I'm such a proponent of these cornerstone tools that you really master, like ChatGPT or equivalent, Airtable, Make or Anything for automations, right? And then you may have some vibe coding tool like Lovable or whatever else, but you master, you know the limitations, you know the strengths, right? And the better you become with these tools, the more creative you also become to solve problems. So always focus on that as opposed to jumping from one tool to another. And only when you have a very specific problem you want to solve, then yes, you can go for some kind of a specialized tool.
And okay, so when it comes, for example, with ChatGPT, we also have Gemini, Perplexity, etc. How do you choose your tool? Is there really that big difference from your experience, or it's more like what do you like from the interface side, and what's more integration?
I'm always now telling that in terms of large language models, there is no big difference. Like some people may like this one more or that one for copywriting, but in an essence, like the difference is very, very small, right? So now you're selecting the application based on the feature set, I would say, more than the large language models. And I will provide an example. For instance, Google Gemini 2.5 Pro is at the moment probably still the best large language model compared to how fast it is, how like comparatively cheap and powerful. But I believe ChatGPT, it used to be O3, now GPT-5 is much more powerful than GPT 2.5 Pro. Why? Not because of the large language model, but the technology, the features supporting that large language model. So what ChatGPT did, or OpenAI, they innovated on releasing what I call loop-based agents. So when you now give a query for GPT-5, it is not just reasoning, like, reasoning models, but it thinks about the tools and actions it can take. So it reasons, it takes action, it evaluates the output, the result, it reasons again, takes action, evaluates the output, reasons again, and goes like this in a loop, and can be 10 seconds, it can be 30 minutes until it reaches objectives. So it started now working not based on very predefined tasks, what we started from, right? But on objectives that you raise for it, right? And in this like loop, it can have 30 searches. It could write some custom code multiple times. It could use some other tools until it can deliver a result with high confidence. So ChatGPT innovated with this, starting from O3 model, now GPT-5. And that's why it's much more powerful, I believe, than GPT 2.5 Pro. So answering to your question about what I chose, I use ChatGPT already for many years since the beginning, because I believe that it's very important not to jump from tool to tool, but to establish a relationship. Yeah, so because the tool starts learning about you, it has memory, right?
Does it also learn from different chats?
Yes, ChatGPT now has memory. It can reference all the other chats that you have, not just some memory nuggets. Yes, so you can ask of anything, right? So it starts learning about you, understanding what matters for you. You can also optimize the tool itself. On a tool level, you can set custom instructions for your tool to know what you like, what you don't like. Let's say I have very specific custom instructions, what I want ChatGPT to focus on and not to do, or to do, right? So it's way more important than jumping and looking for a new affair kind of with a new super beautiful model.
Focus is the key.
Yeah. But actually, next to ChatGPT, I started using Claude now.
I'm using Claude as well.
One thing, Claude is also amazing, like ChatGPT. They also released this loop-based agent now, right? And they have one strength. They have great MCP integration. MCP is Model Context Protocol that allows AI to connect to all the tools that you already use, to read information on these tools and to take action on these tools. So let's say I have my Claude connected to my Airtable. It can go through all the bases that I have, all the databases, evaluate which ones are relevant, then go to any of this base, list all the tables or sheets, evaluate which ones are relevant because it reads the name of a sheet and description. Then it lists all the columns and fields, understand which information is relevant. It lists all the records, evaluates everything, and either takes that into account to respond to me, or it can create records. It can create new tables and so on, right? So I have it connected to Airtable, to Notion. It can also act on my computer. It can act on my browser and so on. So because of this integration, Claude is amazing. So I'm now using both.
How different did you use? Because for me, like when I was testing Claude and ChatGPT and to see which will be my main kind of tool, I was trying to test on the same tasks. And I was looking, okay, which approach do I like more and how do they go through the research type and so on. So far, Claude is winning when it comes to content for sure. I'm curious, so if you've been a long-term user of ChatGPT, now you started using more and more Claude. So how do you differentiate tasks between them?
So looking at the overall feature set, ChatGPT is winning for me still. And maybe for that, actually, there is one major reason. It's the way it has implemented voice interactions. Not just the advanced voice mode when you can talk to your AI, but also how you can just transcribe your prompt. And I believe this is absolutely critical because remember, I told that you must use AI every day. If you're not using AI every day, something is wrong, right? But for you to do that, you need to work on your biases that we have as human beings. And a major bias is how difficult it is to initiate a conversation. Because with AI, you never know what you will get. One thing, there is this, you're not sure if it will be worth it. And another thing, typing in takes time. And it often feels like more effort than it actually is. But if you form a habit to use voice interactions on ChatGPT, so let's say my majority of my interactions are now through voice, you just, talk a tirade of all the context that you believe may be relevant for AI. You just click a button and it sends it all. And the good thing is that large language models became so powerful that you don't need anymore like this very cookie cutter prompt with very like clear structure and so on,
specific structure,
you can
okay.
drop a tirade, you know, all
Yeah.
the content that you believe is relevant for this prompt, and it understands very well and delivers results.
So we were in times a few years ago when the prompts were like 3 pages, 4 pages to get really the desired outcome. How did you notice changing the prompt engineering?
I would say
Because
that when it comes to 3 pages, I would partially agree, because also what was often happening is that when you send a very long prompt, it loses the track of the key factors that matter the most and focuses more on various details that you added while trying to optimize. So often you try to optimize your prompt and then in the end get into a worse place, right? Because it loses the track of the most important things. But now with large language models, they became even more powerful, that if you structure it well, if there is no conflictual information, it has become really good understanding very long prompts as well, right? And adding on top of that it can now take multiple actions and act on objectives, not just based on your simple task, one task that you, right? So I would say if you, for any given workflow you learn that a very long prompt is what you need to deliver best results, then there is no big difference, I would say. Even just the fact that now it's even better to understand it and to not lose track of what matters.
Vykintas, you've been telling, right, about AI being a big part of your daily life, and if you're not using AI on a daily basis, then something is wrong with you. So how does...
Wrong, not in a negative way, but...
So how does your daily interaction for your work looks like?
What I wanted to say is that something is wrong with you in a way that just so that people wouldn't think that I'm a cocky bastard, you know, like, oh, what's wrong with you? No, so what I meant is that if you're not using it every single day, there is a very high potential that you're missing out on opportunity. There is an opportunity cost for you that incurring on every single day, right?
It's you will make it a real hooker. You're not using AI, something is wrong with you. But anyway, yes, I agree that that's really missing out on opportunities. So how do you integrate into your daily workflow? Because you work a lot with education, with developing different tools, with researching the tools, what is new, what new testing. So how does it help you with your daily work?
So one thing, on a daily basis, I'm always having it as my thought partner. Probably you heard there were recently some studies showing that brain kind of rots if you use AI, but that's but that's complete nonsense. I think it is just relevant when you don't care about the task, about what you do, and then sure, you can ask AI to do something and you don't put any effort from your brain, and of course your brain will rot. But if you care about what you do, let's say I'm creating content and curriculum on applied AI, then it becomes like your sparring partner. You drop ideas and you ask, of course, to build on top, but also to be critical. Then it makes some research and brings some other ideas, and you get into this flow as, oh shit, yeah, I didn't think through this angle. But you're co-creating, you're not getting AI to create it for you. That's, I think, a problem with quite a lot of people when they try AI and they try to create some curriculum for their program, and they ask, oh, create a curriculum on this, and then it sucks. Sure, like, of course, you know, like you need to co-create and you need to bring this authentic input. So this is first thing for me. It's like every day it's a sparring partner on ideas. Let's say if I teach about something, let's say how to best write custom instructions for your custom assistants or custom GPTs, then I'm using AI. Let's try to take the principles that I'm teaching and convert it into a simple to remember what's, how to say, like a short framework, right, of letters standing for some word, right? So for things like that, it's really good. And then again, you're selecting from the options and coming up with a very good result. Second thing is research. As I mentioned, it can reason, search, evaluate, reason again. So it has become really good at providing you with at least initial options for various tools, solutions, approaches, and so on.
Do you do fact check for the research?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Especially if you know the topic at hand, you from time to time you notice some mistakes. And I see some people struggling with that. For me, it has never been a big issue, honestly, because I never fully rely just on AI, right? Just as I would never fully rely on other human beings. Like everyone makes mistakes from time to time. That's why you need to co-create so that you would have some kind of understanding, right? And this is how you get to a good result. So this is one thing overall of unstructured interactions, what I call, right? And second, we have structured, what I already mentioned, where you have a list of the workflows that you notice that you do on a daily or weekly or monthly basis. And then you try to enhance those workflows with AI. And then once you enhance, you created, let's say, custom assistant or an interaction that you use continuously, then you plug it into your workflow. It becomes part of what you do. So you don't even need to think anymore about using AI. You naturally use AI, right?
Yeah.
And then here, like, you can think of anything, right? As I mentioned, like creating some copy, some descriptions, ideas, doing research, brainstorming, whatever you can imagine, extracting information from particular pieces and so on.
Yeah, but lots of application opportunities. Using as a therapist, people are doing that as well, which is during the COVID time, I think, when rates were really high, when people started figuring out that maybe you can actually use AI as a therapist. Anyway, talking about AI, and one thing is also for the personal usage, then another is to use it for smaller businesses where you can, let's say, make more mistakes, and GDPR is not that essential, right? Large organizations are facing a lot of limitations because of GDPR issues in Europe, and you've been working with many different sizes companies, delivering trainings, and usually when it comes to AI, what I've noticed that we have very high expectations. We think if someone is working with AI and the tools, so someone will come and will save our company or business by bringing some kind of secret sauce, right? Without our own input as employees or founders. What are your usually major challenges or red flags when you do start working with some kind of businesses, maybe it can be medium or larger, and they want to start integrating AI processes and tools into their organization?
One thing I would say, you also touched a little bit upon the privacy, security, GDPR you mentioned, right? I have a bit different approach compared to a lot of other people. Maybe I'm a bit too loose here, maybe, from the perspective, but I noticed very often, even the companies that I work with or Mindvalley, very often when we talk about using some tool, people are like, oh, it's not safe or secure or something. And I'm like, give me specifics where it is not safe, where it can break or what can actually happen, which exact standard it's not meeting or something, right? And so people think a lot about generics, some phobias out there, but when you try to narrow down to specifics, you often notice that actually there is not so much to worry about. And if you even notice the specifics to worry about, the second different approach that I use, thinking not just in terms of what could go wrong, but about the opportunity costs. How you evaluate your privacy or security potential issues and so on, right? Of course, if you're not in a super huge corporation. In my mind, I'm always calculating expected utility calculations, right? It's actually from my studies still, from political science.
With mine? No?
Yeah. So you take probability, right?
Yes.
Probability of something really happening. Some fears that you have becoming true. Then you will see that probability is like what, 1% often or lower, maybe sometimes higher, right? So you have one variable. Second is the actual cost. So if that fear becomes true, what actually happens? So for instance, sometimes people have questions to me like, oh, I have this app with some customer data and I'm afraid if that data leaks or something. And I'm like, okay, let's get into specifics. What kind of specific customer data do you have there? Is it name and email and maybe what that customer did on your application? Like, I know, added a habit or whatever, right? Or do we talk about actually some financial information or some health issues? It's a completely different perspective you're talking about. And if you have like just an email and name, okay, let's imagine the worst case scenario becomes true, that data somehow leaks, right? What actually happens? What's the worst? You often see that this C variable cost is actually not as high as you may think. So you multiply probability times the cost, right? Yeah. And then on the other hand, so this is your expected like negative value if something happens. But on the other hand, you have probability of 100%. That if you're using AI, you get value. If you don't use AI, you don't get any value. Multiplied by the value you may get from and this is your opportunity cost. And very often the opportunity cost is way, way, way higher than this expected cost if something goes wrong. But people don't think this way, and they lose a lot of opportunities of using AI. Like this is a bit not about AI, but no code development. For instance, I often have people approaching me and telling, I want to create an app for my startup with no code. You showed this tool. Is it good? To scale, because I may need million users and so on. And I'm like, guys, first get into this problem where you have million users, then you will find solutions. You will get money then for sure, investment. You can hire a technical team or agency. You can build whatever application you want. But first of all, this is not a problem you have. You have a problem that you don't have anything. So just get an application out with no code or vibe coding as soon as possible to get feedback from your customers, to see if at all they are interested in what you're trying to create, and also to get information about what features they care about and what features they don't, right? So this is once again an opportunity cost. People think about potential future problems and then they end up not creating anything at
Not moving
application
the
or
needle. That's such a common mistake, not mistake, like behavior pattern in startup world. That we have this big vision, grand vision, but the vision is so big that we don't know where to start and how to break it into smaller steps to actually kick off. So it feels very familiar from what I've been working with.
And funny story here, like my first startup that I did with my friend many years ago, already 7 years or so, the idea was of creating a health startup where we are getting to companies and then running a few health and fitness tests in a company. So to make it easy for employees that they don't need to go anywhere, it's like as a perk in a company. And from these few tests, we get like 50 or so biomarkers, right? And then we have an application which gives people recommendations how to improve and so on until the next time we come to do the test. And for this, I created the first application in my life that was fully automated and so on.
That's how it started.
Yes, with Google Sheets, freaking Google Sheets. I created an application that was fully automated, giving all these recommendations, like you could enter your goals and it automatically calculates and shows you pictures, how it would look like and so on. And at first we were like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do that. Go, with Google Sheets to companies, investors. The investors that we came talking about funding, they were super excited about this approach. They said everyone comes to us and tells us, oh, we want money to create an application, and here you come with Google Sheet, and it worked. Awesome, you have a prototype, that's cool. And we were going to huge companies, to IBM, to Lidl, and so on, and we never heard any comments about that application that it would be bad or something. So often you just have it in your mind, but the most important thing is to kick off. And we spent $0, literally $0 on that app.
But here we go, especially nowadays, right? You can prototype with Figma, with AI right now. There used to be a Wizard that got acquired by Miro. Then Lovable. I mean, it's a brilliant tool, not only for prototyping I'm using that for prototyping, for me to help to visualize the potential structure of the thing I want to create. Like I was rebranding my website and I could not really think how the structure could look like. I had this idea, but there were some roadblocks. I was like, okay, let me do it with Lovable. I'm still going to build it on another software because I want to have more control and not always feed the algorithm. And I've done that, and it gave me the perfect landing page, the way I wanted to finalize my vision based on prompting. I was like, yeah, man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really cool. All right. So we covered quite a lot today. I have maybe a couple of more final questions. One of them would be still AI mastery. You are receiving a lot of clients' questions, right? You have those Q&As about where to begin, where to start, what to do. What are the major questions you receive usually? What are people worried? What are they concerned about? And what are the struggles?
One thing is finding the use cases, what we already
touch-based already.
Touch-based, yeah. Another thing is this fear of missing out of all the tools that also we touched upon, that I think the most important thing, find the cornerstone tools and really master them, start using. And then I would say various specific questions that they have, how to build some application or some kind of a solution, which I noticed people are still too reliant on experts like me when they can actually use AI already to get pretty good results. Of course, if you don't have any understanding, very often AI will not get to the right direction where you need it. So you need, again, to co-create. But if you do your own research and then work with AI, then you can find the solutions that you need.
Potentially, yes, but you know what I find value in the experts? I mean, because the experts, they've done it,
Yes,
right? So
yeah.
you've been through all those testings, you kind
Yeah.
of tested, have an overview what's happening, so you really save time and you don't have to be on top notch on or
You're
every
right.
single implication. So for me, I would maybe even disagree because
Yeah.
there was some questions I was solving with ChatGPT, and at the end of the day, my best solution was calling someone and talking to, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because of the context that we have as human beings, perhaps.
And I'm always telling that the biggest value that I can provide when I consult someone is actually not how to build or do something, but if it's really what you need. Let's say if someone wants to automate something, right? And I try to start not from how to automate, but is it really something that you need to build an automation for? Is it a scalable process, right? That how much actually it will be running and creating value for you, right? Is it a stable process, as I mentioned? Maybe you will need to then continuously recreate and maintain and fix the automation, right? How difficult and complex it is, because people very often, they focus on some very complex parts of the system. They try to fully automate it and invest a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of confusion, while in actuality, you can just hire a contractor that would need to do something for 45 minutes per week, something that would be very difficult to solve with AI and technology, but would be very easy. And like, what? Okay, pay, for these 45 minutes per week, it's no problem. So, and then next step is for me, okay, how can we design an experiment that you could, as soon as possible, build something to prove your assumptions, if it really is valuable or not, right? So I see this as the major value that I can provide, not right away getting into building something.
All right. So Vykintas, you also developed a course on AI. So what's the value of the course and what kind of people actually join such courses? Because I'm in general curious. When is that tipping point where you should use some kind of guidance when it comes to new knowledge and implementation in your business?
I'm always telling that, do you need a course? No, you don't, right? Like, I personally learned no code and changed my career the first time, and then learned applied AI. I'm not an AI expert, I'm applied AI expert.
Yes.
So, right? Without any courses, without any education, if you want, if you have the burning eyes, you can do it. That's the most important thing. What I learned is to have a project, a challenge that you want to solve, then you will learn. Because let's say while learning no-code app builders, I tried a few times to learn while reading or like going through some demo that they have on their help center, and I failed. But when I had an actual application to build, let's say for one of my clients, I built an AI language tutor application, and I understood that one tool that I was using is not advanced enough. And then I wanted to use a tool called Flutterflow, which allows you to build nearly any kind of application with no code. And I learned that tool in a few weeks, and at the same time built an app that we released as a product. So you need to have a challenge or a project. Then you can learn without any courses or programs. But if you want easier way, if you can invest, one thing, it creates accountability for you because of the money you already invested. Another thing, there is some kind of a schedule, some kind of mentors that can save your time, as opposed to going all around the internet and consuming a lot of trash as well, and always being affected by this FOMO. You can have mentors like, let's say, like me, who have a lot of experience already and who live applied AI, who can help you focus on what really matters. So then it's definitely valuable, but it's not necessary.
Like, I think like everywhere in life, right? I see also the value of a community, right? Where you go through the same challenges, or let's say you join here, okay, I want to integrate, let's say, AI tools into my processes and into my daily work life, and you're going with the same people through the same challenges. So you can actually share the cases. That's where I see the very strong USP, I would say, the advantage, right? And perhaps you've been building so many applications and going through so many cases. Perhaps there are some patterns that can be shared and mistakes that can be avoided. So yeah, okay, Vykintas, we're going closer to the end. I have a tradition on this podcast to share a question to ponder for the audience after they listen to us. So what would be your question to the audience?
What are my cornerstone tools that I will really master so that I would cover majority of my needs and I wouldn't need to always look for a new tool or application? I have a problem, I can use the tools that I already have at my disposal that I feel comfortable with. So have a list of these tools.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, it was Vykintas Glodenis. I will leave in the show notes how you can connect with him. Perhaps on LinkedIn, it's your channel to go. And we've just had a quick masterclass on applied AI. I hope you learned as much as I did. I already know what I'm going to do next after today's episode and conversation. And thank you very much for joining with us today, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Ačiū, Vykintas. I'm melting in this terrace.
You're in the sun.